Our next speaker here at the Garden Stage is Johan Ganström. He works as a senior marine manager at Intertanko, and he will now tell us about the current developments affecting tank owners from an Intertanko perspective. Johan, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for having me here at the Dunse Shipping Meet, and it's an honor to be here and present and talk about what we do at Intertanko. For those of you who are not aware of what Intertanko and who we are the International Association of Independent Tanker Owners. So our members are independent from oil majors and charterers around the world, and we have been around for over 40 years. We are now over 205 members, over almost 4,000 tankers, 332 million deadweight tonnage, and represented in over 40 countries. That may not sound so much, but we have around 20% of the number of tankers around the world, and 60 to 65% of the deadweight tonnage around the world is what we represent today. So it's a quite big part of the tanker industry that are members within the Intertanko. So what do we do? We represent and we will establish between all the members to work and collaborate around safety and security for ships around the world. And we have been doing this for 20 years, and quite successfully, we must say. Because when we started, the industry looked very different. Today, we are a very clean, a very low rate of accidents and incidents. So our goals today are 0 fatalities, 0 pollution, and 0 detentions. We're not there yet, but we hope to achieve that. And to do this, we are at 20 persons working in the Secretariat in offices in Singapore, Washington, Athens, Oslo, and in the head office in London, where I myself work. To actually drive this, we have a lot of committees that work for us. Not less than 14 committees that actually is who decide what we do. And without them, we're nothing. In there, we decide on policies, guidelines, and everything that we do. And that is what's driving us. And that's also what makes us strong. So, and to do this, we have an NGO status at the IMO, and where we actually take part in the legislation that works around the shipping industry. We work with IHO, we work with all the big organizations around the world, and we have a very strong voice there. So, and I'll come back a little bit to that in the end. So, what are the issues right now that our members see and what they raise and so on? I think if you're in the industry, I will not present anything new. You will actually know all these. And I will start with actually the latest thing that happened to us a couple of weeks ago. As many of you may know, the new ECDIS upgrades were supposed to come into force and have been coming into force since Friday. However, manufacturers did not cope with this and could not come up with all this, the upgrades in time. And that was a concern to members, because all the port state controls in the world were supposed to check that we had all these upgrades that we couldn't do. We acted quickly, contacted flag states, contacted the MOUs around the world, and also have a paper to the IMO, and we have a mitigation in place that our members can help. And that's how we can act and work very quickly to assist the members on certain issues. On the same issue, we are actually now also very soon releasing our first ECDIS and navigation guidelines, which is with the issues that actually are within the ECDIS and navigation. And we're quite happy to do that, and we have shared it with IHO, who are very interested, and we'll have a paper in there, and we hope we can drive the change in and around that. We're also very happy that Dan Sten Olsson today mentioned autonomous ships, which is on the agenda for us. We're watching it for it. We may not think that we will have unmanned ships, but a better decision support system is something we definitely would like to see coming up in and around that. Mooring, some of you are aware of that. It's been worked on for over 1 year now with the Mooring Equipment Guidelines 4. And we've been collaborating closely with OCIMF on this, and they will be released later this year. We also work with them on with IMO and guidelines there, and we also hope that we have a very successful outcome on the IMO when it comes to the guidelines on mooring there. Then the single biggest issue in Intertanko is vetting and sire. And if you're a tanker owner, this is something that comes up and will be a big part of what you do. And of course, being representing tanker owners, that is highest on our agenda as well. We are the only one who actually are partaking in the sire focus group together with OCIMF, and we continuously try to work with the numbers and cost of these inspections, inspection standards, and VIQ guidance. And not least now, we have a VIQ 6 coming up, and guidelines. We're trying to reduce the number of questions and guidelines on the VIQ questionnaires. And of course, vetting policies, transparency between ourselves and the oil majors and what we do. Officer matrix is of course something which is a concern to all of you who are managers and operators out there. And it's been on the agenda. We worked 10 years ago on a scheme called TOTS, which is now being revised. And I'll come back a little bit to both TOTS and another collaboration that we have on this issue. We talk about terminal inspection and incident report. Recently, OCIMF released the TMSA 3, and we're happy to say that we came out with a gap analysis between the TMSA 2 and 3 immediately, and it's available on the Intertanko website for all our members. So this is something that we're very happy with, and we work very closely with CDI on the same issues like vettings, and we have the same relationship there as we do have with OCIMF, and a very good collaboration that we have there. Within vetting sphere, we could say, we have a lot of initiatives going on and benchmarking activities. We have a VIQ benchmarking, we have TMSA benchmarking, and we have a lost time incidents benchmarking that our members can benefit from and actually go in and take part in, and it's very good. So, and which I should come back to, we have also the latest issue of the vetting guide coming up. It will be released, the new vetting guide, at the end of this month. So if you have been waiting for it, it should have been released Friday. Unfortunately, it's a little bit late, but later this month you will have an updated vetting guide. And this year it's been a slight change. We have also separated the port state control part, so will now be 2 parts. For you who buy it, will be the same price, but you can buy the port state control guide separately. That's something we're very happy for, because not only tanker operators are happy with the port state control part. If we leave then the vetting part and go over to something more, serious, and it would be piracy. And many of you may have seen that piracy is something that have gone away and haven't seen so much. Although in around Somalia that may be the case. However, we have seen an increase in Gulf of Guinea, and there has been, unfortunately, a quite big increase in piracy-related incidents, and we have seen kidnappings going on there. Also in Southeast Asia, Malacca Strait, Singapore Strait, and in and around Philippines, we also see incidents increasing there, where mostly petty theft, but still piracy-related incidents, and something that is concerned. And we now work with the global best marine practice on this issue, together with all the other international organizations. So be careful if you go out there. Make sure you follow all the guidance that actually is out there. It hasn't gone away, but it has moved to part. So, if we then jump to technical environmental issues, I think they've mentioned a few of them here in this morning, and I think Darnsten covered some of them. And we have the Paris Agreement and the greenhouse gas emissions that is actually here. We work on them and how IMO should treat the Paris Agreement. And this is, of course, something very, very difficult. How do we do? We saw Clarkson here earlier on discuss if we have a global world shipping growing, and how can we then reduce the emissions when they have an increased trade? We can't really do something about the trade, we can do something about the shipping. So we have to reduce that, and that is our goal within Intertanko, to ensure that the industry gets greener, but to get a general cap, we need to actually tackle world trade, and that's nothing that we can actually do. And so that is our take and our mission within the IMO when we tackle these issues. Another issue now with the EEDI and similar things when we now want to go greener is that how green can we be? And then we come into say how little power do we have? So what is the minimum power required? And that's something of a concern, because on a VLCC you install less and less power on these ships, and they're being increasingly difficult to maneuver in high wind speeds on the oceans. And this is something that we do care about. Recently, a lot of incidents actually have happened around anchoring. We are now anchoring in much, much deeper water around the world, and the equipment is absolutely not suited for this. We can, the anchorage is supposed to be for good weather and in actually quite shallow waters. So we're now working with both guidelines and updated technical solutions for this purpose. And then again, another big issue, 2020 sulfur cap coming up, 0.5%, and how do we tackle that? Do we have enough fuel? Probably, but what is the blending of that fuel? How will that look like? And how do the engines then fit for this fuel? And if it isn't any fuel available, how do we tackle that together with the port state controls? And this is something we work with in both IMO, with the bunker suppliers, and so on. Probably the most tiresome and thing that you've heard around the last 10 or 15 years is probably ballast water treatment. I will not go in for a long talk about this. However, it's now getting into force. 8th of September is getting into force, and what we now work on is only that we have installation and operation that is adequate for these systems, and the compliance and enforcement. It needs strong and well-defined, realistic and international regulation around how we actually do this. And of course, the US part of this is also something that is of a concern. We're constantly monitoring this. And lastly, I would like to talk about an initiative that was actually started between the boards of both OCIMF and Intertanko. And we came to the conclusion that we have come a long way with accidents and incidents around the world when it comes to shipping and specifically tankers. However, still we have accidents and incidents. Although now at a very low level and not very often, they still happen. How do we tackle these last percentage? How do we do to get them down even further? So the boards came down and we sat down and we now set up the first two projects for this. The first one is that we will target the competence management systems and specifically looking at soft skills and behavior. That is one thing. So the competence assessment and verification working group will come up with its first draft later this year, and we're very proud to work together with these two organizations. We have actually had not worked that well before. We're very happy that we work with them. The second one that we work with is actually to setting up a database. Since we are in Sweden, you may know of something called Insjö. and that is a reporting scheme. This will be much larger, but on the same thing, and it will be unidentified. So you will not be seen who you are, but we can learn from incidents that others have, and we can benchmark towards each other, and we can find out good solutions, how we act and react, and can be work for the future with less incidents and accidents. So, at very last, so how do we help? How do we do this? And well, come and ask us. If you remember, join our committees. That's the best way to actually interact, is where we set the policies. Or if you remember, just call us and we will act and we will help. So please be a member. If you are not an owner, please be an associate members, and you get first hand on to see our members. And I've seen some familiar faces walking around here as our members. So thank you very much for listening, and hope you all have a very good Donsö Shipping Meet continued from here.
Thank you, Johan, very much. There seems to be a lot of things that we have to be aware of and that we can prepare as well.
Yeah, I've tried to condense it very much, but still there's so much that I didn't talk about.
So if you want to know more about these things, where can we find you?
I'll be around here for now, and just catch me somewhere if I'm just keep me, and I'll try to answer everything I can. So, but firstly, I jump down here and answer questions to those who have some.
Perfect. Thank you very much for listening, and we will be back tomorrow with 3 other interesting presentations. And I hope you will enjoy the rest of your Donsö Shipping Meet today. Thank you.
Thank you.